Hey, good morning, parents. My name's Michelle Mitchell. I'm a parenting educator, author, and speaker, and I have a very special interest in the area of tweens and teens. And I have a parent question here which I would love to answer. It says, what's the best way to support your teen's interests when the parent and the teen don't have the same interests? And the parent sometimes doesn't understand the teen's interests or finds it really difficult to engage because they don't like the teen's interests. Do you know there's going to be seasons and times in our kids' lives where they do have completely different interests than we do. But the teenage years, they're a time where our kids want to be different than us. So this scenario is not uncommon at all. The good news is this: common interests and connection don't necessarily rely on each other. Common interest obviously is very convenient. It provides an amazing backdrop for meaningful conversations and for memories to be built. But connection can happen even when common interest is absent. And I'm going to give you 3 strategies that you can rely heavily on when common interest is missing in your relationship with your teen. The first one is this: I want you to look for the mundane and milk it for all it's worth. And I know you probably do this already, but I want you to look for common times and places where you both have to connect. And I want you to actually find some creativity in those moments. When they were little, they might have loved going to soccer with you, but now they're teenagers and their interest is not quite at its height. But you still both have to get into the car and travel in that car. So I want you to think of things like packing the car together, choosing music for the car, putting petrol in the car, learning how to change a tire for the car, and obviously having conversations in the car that mean something. And those things often really get parents through these teenage years. The second thing is this: I want you to elevate and champion their difference. So often as human beings, and particularly as parents, when our kids have an interest that's different than ours, it surfaces a certain level of fear in us, and we would like them to be the same as us, and we would like them to keep them close. And when our kids come home wanting blue hair, or wanting to, try something really outlandish that is not going to really stick in their life, I want you to remind yourself that this time in their life is so seasonal. And in those moments, it's so important that we don't squash their steps towards independence. Do you know every single step moves them one step closer towards their adult self? And when my kids were little, I had to say this to myself. I used to say, I can hear their man's voice. Okay, it's a little immature. It's a little rough around the edges. Okay, it's going to change and develop. But I can hear their man's voice coming around the corner. And my response to that is so critical in building their sense of self and their resilience as they move towards their adult self. The third thing really plays into this. So oftentimes as parents, we're prepared to give our kids time and our money, and we tick those 2 boxes, but we forget they really need our hearts. And there's one thing about teenagers is that when we have this all-in, whole heart response to their interests, they really appreciate it. And sometimes we have to choose them over comfort. I remember my son was really bored. It was 10:30 at night and he asked me to go for a walk. Now, when my son was 14 and he wanted to go for a walk, it meant barefoot through the bush for about an hour. And it was one of those nights where I felt like pulling the doona up and actually just being by myself. And I thought to myself, no, it might not be a common interest, but this is a time when memories are built. So I ripped my shoes off and we went running down the bush for, an hour, and I probably got 500 prickles in my feet, and we ended up jumping in the pool in the freezing cold water right at the end of it. And we actually didn't share a common interest, but we shared a common moment. And there's so many times in our kids' lives where we can jump in boots and all, and we can put our comfort aside for that hour, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, and play a game of Fortnite, or start a cupcake cooking session at 12 o'clock at night, or whatever it be that floats your teenager's boat, because it's going to speak volumes to them. So if you have a teenager in your home, love them lots. Have a great week with them, and remember 3 things. Keep using the mundane, champion their difference, and step out of your comfort zone and be a part of their world as often as you can.